engineers and scientists. In a few words, it's kind of a GitHub, but for engineers and scientists. And opposite to GitHub, we are not focused on code, but focused on data, on results of calculations, simulations, material properties, and other technical stuff that is used for creating calculations and complex optimization processes, other things that researchers usually face during their career, during their process of studying, actually, and developing complex products.
Mm-hmm. And how did you come up with the idea? How do you understand that there is a problem on the market which needs to be solved with the help of this type of solution?
Yeah, I would say this is basically dictated by my experience. So I have 10 years of experience in aerospace industry. And starting with the very first days of my career, I noticed that engineers are usually doing the same stuff again and again. So this was one side of the problem. And another side of the problem is that to derive some estimations and maybe write some mathematical models, you usually have to rely on some data. And this data is usually not available. So, for example, when you're designing a multi-stage rocket, for example, the space rocket, you usually have to consider the relations of the tank mass to the propellant mass and other things that are very high-level entities. And they encapsulate all this complexity of design of these tanks. But the relations are quite simple, but you don't have this data. So engineers are usually using statistical data, old data that was created before them. And this data is relied on non-existent technologies that were used before them. And to improve this process, you need actual data. So you need to have something that is more up-to-date and using new technologies. So this is two sides of the problem. It's accessibility of data and its reusability in the sense of making some calculations and building mathematical models.
Is there a red line between the data and know-how and sharing this data? Because I understand, and this is my assumption, that at some point as a researcher, I have some data, which is kind of crucial for me, but I don't want probably to share it with others because it's my know-how. So how do you manage work with that?
Yeah, excellent question. And I would say this is a number one question that everybody asks. So I would say the answer is quite simple. There is a barrier between closed data, private data that belongs to companies, to researchers, and we don't force anybody to share this data. And there is no sense of sharing this data. But there is abundance of data that is open, but is not available to access. So, for example, we can take publication in journal. So it definitely relies on open research and contains data. Some publications may rely on closed research and only publish results, but usually based on the information in the publication, you can understand the method, you can understand what data is derived and insights that you can reuse in your calculations. But this publication is not, in a sense, of reusable form of data. So attaching data sets and explaining how to use these data sets is one point towards reusability. And another way is to make data first repositories instead of publications. So this is our approach. And I would say that open data is there. It's just not in the form and not in the way it has to be done for making easier to reuse this data.
Cool. And concerning these insights and your answer, let's talk about the customers and users of this product. So who are the users now, which you envisioned, and probably how did your user hypothesis changed over time on one side, and also the same about the customers, the buyers who are paying the money for this? Let's elaborate on this more.
I would say that we started from the very basic hypothesis that we want to facilitate the process of designing and engineering, and also research and science in general, but with a major focus towards mechanical engineering due to my bias towards this field of knowledge. And we tried different hypotheses who may benefit of using Spline Cloud. So in the end, after several years, we came out that there are lots of players that actually can benefit of using Spline Cloud. So we can say that our core community researchers, those can be PhD students, those can be workers of R&D departments that are actually working with data, working with simulations, with experiments, and they actually publish results in scientific journals, right? So those are one side of our ecosystem, right? And on the other side, we can see the universities that actually can benefit of incorporating our solution in their education process, in their process of working with industry. And industry as well can benefit of using Spline Cloud because it can be seen as a mediator between science and engineering, right? So when we talk about some complex research process that in the end gives you some function that you can reuse in your design optimization, and you apply to university to make this research, and this research can be shared openly or it can be shared privately with our private repositories, then definitely everyone wins from this situation. And there is another group of customers that we see is manufacturers of some goods, some components, mechanical systems. They actually, what they're doing right now, they publish data sheets of their products on with their websites. Those data sheets contain critical data that engineers use to validate if this component fits to their systems. But these data sheets are not in a reusable form. Those are just PDFs with some graphs and other things. And we see that those manufacturers can benefit of using Spline Cloud for marketing purposes. They can create repositories with data that is easy to reuse in calculations, and in this way facilitate engineers to waste less time on validating their products in their designs. So these are different scenarios of using our platform, but we are focused on giving value to all players that are listed.
Let's talk about the aspect of the value and about the features. I don't usually love talking about the features because it's more about the benefits, but for all of those scientists, because obviously some of the scientists are listening to us too, and probably those are aerospace engineers or, like potential customers of your product. So what your product gives them, like which opportunities it encloses to them?
Mm-hmm. I may use some technical terms, so please forgive me if I do.
We will. Just a short answer here.
Yes. So actually, there is a field of study in engineering that is called knowledge-based engineering, and it says that you actually don't have to waste time on different iterations of design and repeating things that you are doing usually. It's better to focus on design optimization. So creating algorithms that would design products based on some knowledge. This broad term knowledge-based engineering can be seen in different implementations. So there are knowledge-based engineering applications inside the corporate CAD systems that help automate design processes and other things. And there are standalone programs like programmable CAD systems that allow engineers and programmers not to just design things, but to write code that will design things for them. And in this, why I'm talking about this, and this critical thing is those systems rely on knowledge base. And a knowledge base, if we're talking about design automation and algorithms, this knowledge base has to keep some properties. So it has to be reusable in code. So knowledge in this knowledge base has to be reusable in code to simplify and really enable the reuse of this knowledge in these knowledge-based systems. The idea is that we provide tools that are used by researchers to make data reusable. So those are really not complex features. It's graph digitizing tool and curve fitting tool, but those things are actually used by engineers a lot. So if you ever conducted some research, you probably had the need to extract data from graph from some article that is not reusable, the scientific article. So you extract data from this graph and validate if those results are correct, or you can use those results to rely on in your designs. So we provide this feature. It's integrated in Spline Cloud. So when you're working with data, you can extract data from graphs using our tool, and this data becomes accessible and reusable through our API in your code. And another feature is curve fitting tool. When you extracted data, and if you have data as a table, you usually trying to fit some function to this data. So data usually in engineering especially represents some relation of one parameter against another parameter. And we provide a tool that helps create those relations, and those functions, they become accessible through our API in the code. And the benefit of that is somebody has done a so-called knowledge capture process. So they digitize graphs, build relations, and those relations, if published openly in public repository, become available to others.
That's a pivot, and we are pretty glad that we made it, because nowadays we can feel the not only commercial perspective on it, but as well social impact, significant one. And product itself is much more complicated than VR headset. So we are talking about the application which is running in VR headset, which consists of a set of experiences or practices which can be delivered to the patient and statistically significantly reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, increase overall feeling. And that is the work of our psychological department, which joined the company from the first day of the pivot development. So there is pretty solid scientific background. Then, beside the positive impact, therapeutical impact on the patients, or it is properly to name them clients in psychological terms, our solution allows clinics to scale psychological services. So basically there is an application on mobile phone which allows therapists to launch experiences or programs simultaneously on multiple headsets and serve at a time kind of 20 patients. And considering that one headset could accept 20, 30 customers per day, one therapist basically can serve up to 600 clients a day, which is probably, what is the number? 120 times more in comparison to the traditional approach. We are not treating the trauma. We are offering instrument to the therapists, which allows him to simplify work on the symptoms of the trauma, offload him and use technology to scale the services. Trauma is left for the therapist. It's kind of jewelry work and requires personal communication. There is no AI model which can cope with it.
Right. So you mentioned the scientific approach, and could you please elaborate on it more? So do you collaborate with Ukrainian academia? As far as I know, you're in partnership with the Ukrainian Catholic University. At least you have the research done in collaboration with them, right? with a psychologist from the Ukrainian Catholic University, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. But first of all, we are relying on our own forces and capabilities. Our psychologists are extremely experienced. So having the PhD in psychology, having the 10 years of experience of rehabilitation. So the war in Ukraine is already here for more than 10 years. And we've started collaboration with and verification of our ideas with one of the most innovative rehabilitation center in Ukraine, which has name Lisova Polyana. And through the research there and constant verification of our practices and exercises, we can be sure that it can be used safely with a positive effect in other clinics. And of course, we do have great interest in collaboration. So Ukrainian Catholic University, we do have a partnership with them, and several researchers we were conducted in cooperation with UKU. We are working with the National University named after Taras Shevchenko. We are starting collaboration with universities in United States and in Europe. So in general, I would say our capability to work with such a massive quantity of traumatized people unfortunately brings enormous possibilities, enormous and unique possibilities to the researchers around the globe to understand better behavior of traumatized people and how it can be affected efficiently.
So thank you. And I have the next questions a bit related to this topic. Have you already faced some challenges in integrating VR technologies with mental health treatment? And if yes, how have you overcome them?
Starting from the bringing psychology approaches itself into quite complicated from the user experience perspective device is a challenge. So it requires really close collaboration in between three departments, which are psychological one, department of video production, and engineering department. Sometimes it goes into rounds and into many iterations. It is quite complicated to integrate innovation into the medical sphere overall, as it's naturally very conservative. So the reason for that is that workers of medical spheres really trying to avoid unverified innovations. They are relying on the tools, instruments, processes, which has been proven for many years to be efficient. But in our case, it's just a necessity. So we do have millions of people with whole variety of the symptoms of mental disorders, and it's mandatory for the future of the nation, basically, to bring technology to scale services, to find alternatives to traditional ways. So for a year and a half, it was quite difficult to penetrate and making installations. Even all activities in Ukraine is a charity one. Still, it was complicated. We performed multiple trials and pilots in order to reach to the point that nowadays clinics are approaching us and basically asking for full support.
Right. It is very difficult to integrate technology in, like, I believe, almost every industry and sphere, but medical sphere is specifically, documented, kind of, regulated in this case. So it might be a challenge, right? But what are some of the most rewarding outcomes you've seen from maybe people, from your clients, right, who are using your VR solutions?
I probably can give a few examples of the effect we are bringing. So there was a case when we've met in a rehabilitation center veteran, and he was kind of selected by the head of the psychological department to trial the product. And after 7 minutes of exercise, he said to myself and Max that it's actually quite a nice thing. I probably could use it before going to sleep to overcome insomnia. He stand up and then started to talk about all things which worries him, starting from his family. He cannot return to the army because he lost an arm, and he doesn't see perspective, and there are many things related to the children he worries about. So it was like a flow of the disturbing and really sad thoughts. We really didn't expect it, and after he left, we received the feedback that this guy didn't talk to the doctors for kind of 2 weeks, and it is the first time he opened up. There was a case when after passing the course of Luminify VR therapy, there were women who said that nowadays it's kind of possible for them to overcome panic attacks because they just clearly remembered breathing exercises which are part of Luminify program, and they're just extremely thankful for that. There were feedbacks from therapists that they do not see any more therapy without application, without using Luminify, which is
Yes, the reason why it has no competitors because we came to the product through customer request. So basically, they asked us to measure dust in a process which has explosive gas. So basically, it's high concentration of explosive gas, and it's not really easy to measure it. So we came with this question to our producer of other equipment, and we could not find any solution. And with our partner, international partner, we agreed that we can develop new product. We actually developed it from zero with some existing solution, but basically it was unique design. And after we have certified it, we supplied it to the customer, and it was successful.
So just to clarify this part, was there no, like literally no solution on the market, or what was, or was this problem that unique that, and that, like a single problem for a single person that nobody wanted to develop the solution? Just for us to understand better the market and what was going on that market.
Yes, it's not. It's basically a basic oxygen furnace flue gas. So it's standard metallurgical plant production, and it was solved usually by manual sampling. But since we have more and more restrictions in control of industrial pollution, so they were forced to find some solution by basically by environmental agencies. So they actually found one solution. It was also custom made, but it failed. So they were looking for another one. And we successfully supplied, and we didn't fail. So it was good.
Wow. So as I hear, there is a tendency on the market and requirements from the market to solve this problem in a different way, which was there before. And right now you solve this one. And let's talk a bit more about the key milestones of this product development. So you've got an initial request. What were the milestones? And this is kind of the scientific based and very like brain intensive product. So what are the challenges? What were the challenges and milestones of defining it and designing it?
We had the request in 2018. Then we agreed that we will develop the product with our partner. We developed it within 1 year, basically. And it was designed, like half a year we spent for designing, discussion, etc. Then we implemented it and we certified it. So this was actually one of our non-competitive advantage, that we could certify it locally in Ukraine. And that's why it could be used in this application. Then we supplied the first prototype. We tested it. It was okay, but we found a lot of issues, let's say. And we had another request from another plant since it was successful. So we got another request and we developed a second prototype. But we shipped it into 2021 in December. So basically, after we shipped it, like in 2 months, the war started. So it was just shipped and left in stock. And after that, we got discussion with our partner, our international partner, that they will not continue with this project because they have their own problems, issues, or plans, lack of staff. So we decided we will continue by ourselves. So basically, then the startup become forming from just a company supplier of equipment. So we formed to startup. And in 2023, we reconnected with the customer, we started up, and then we decided that maybe this product could be like international, since the market is pretty open, because this application is straightforward. We actually got like several requests from international companies on this product, but the only problem that we have Ukrainian certification, but we don't have international certification. So that's how we moved on. So right now we've got this grant from Seeds of Bravery, which actually will be, we will spend on certification, on patenting of our product, and that's our course.
So as I understand, right now you have the request from the abroad, from the clients, and the biggest roadblock is this certification, which you are doing right now. So in the near future, after you will have this certification, by the way, how much time does it take to get your certification? It's like several years or several months, how it is?
There are several actually certification which we have to pass. So basically one is ATEX certification. It is specialized certification for explosion-proof equipment. and it takes, as promised by the certification body, it takes 4 months.
Okay.
So we have this, yeah. So we have discussed with them already the documentation, and we are ready to sign the contract. And basically, it will take 4, I hope, like not more than 6 months.
Cool.
And
cool.
but there are some actually more certifications which cost more, which are very long, like 1.5 year. For example, we plan to certify for it called emission monitoring. Basically, if you use it for emission monitoring specifically, there is a specific another application, another certification, which is not so simple as ATEX certification, let's say.
Do I understand it correctly that it's like you have one additional certification and you can enter additional use case or additional customer segment, and with this certification which you will get in 4 months, you can already like enter international markets and start selling your product. Am I correct?
Yeah, basically we will have the same application but for international market. So I don't know. We have calculated that there are like around 1,000 processes which we can monitor, and basically they are lack of monitoring. So I believe that we will be the only one, like exclusive unique solution.